If I can only choose one day in the entire year that I could forage, it would be like today, mid-August, in central Texas, because at this time we have both delicious Texas persimmons and some prickly pears. It's two of the best fleshy, sweet fruits in the area. You can gather a ton of them, and they're just so good. So come with me if you want to see how an elite forager, professional, conducts his craft specifically for the Texas persimmon or prickly pear, which has prickles on it, as you might get from the name. But I can't forage from these because they're the first ones I've seen. I just got to this my secret foraging spot, and gotta wait till I've seen at least a bunch, because that's just the rules. You don't forage the first thing you see ever. But I got my whole setup here. Got the sun hat, some sun coverage, lightweight cloth, some leather shoes. Sometimes I just do it in flip-flops, but I realize with the prickly pear, you gotta have some foot protection. It's nicer to have that. And the long pants as always, because there's a lot of brush and I'm never gonna stick to a trail. And as far as the bags, I did grab one of these persimmons, but it was for demonstration purpose. I got one bag for the, what am I going to put in here? Texas persimmons. They got to be up high, got to be protected, they're a little bit easier to squish. And down below, I got my prickly pear bag, which in it, got some tongs and a skin brush, which I'll be using to remove those glochids, those pesky little tiny spines. I use the tongs to grab onto them, and a little skin brush to brush them off. Now, if you don't have any of those, it doesn't really matter either. You can just bend a branch in half and use that as tongs, and then grab a wad of grass, or just throw the prickly pears on some soil like this, something sandy, gravelly, and put them in a pile, and then just roll them around, stir them with a branch, just of whatever, some juniper branch. But they're pretty easy to remove. So I'm gonna walk for a little bit. We'll get to a good spot. Here's a prime sign that the Texas persimmons are ripe. You got some scat here, probably some coyote, maybe a raccoon on that rock. And it's very dark black, because those Texas persimmons are just pure black. I've ventured deep enough into the woods, so to speak, and so it's time to start picking some of these Texas persimmons. Oh, just look at these. Look at that. Just like so juicy and black, and it tastes so rich. It's like chocolate pudding. Like plum pudding, persimmon pudding. Incredibly delicious. There's just no fruit like it. It has a few big seeds, but just spit those out. Look at all these persimmons. Yeah, some shrubs are just absolutely packed with these. And unlike a lot of wild food products, there isn't much variability in the taste. They're all equally delicious, actually. It's really nice. They don't all produce as many, and they aren't all the same size. These are both large and prolific. This is a good little shrub right here. And you definitely do not want to consume these underripe. Let me see, like this one would probably be fine, but if they have any bit of green on them, or like this color, they are not good at all. They're extremely astringent. And so they are in the same genus as regular persimmons. The common persimmon that's wild in eastern North America is Diospyros virginiana, and this one's Diospyros texana. But this one's closest relative is actually down in Mexico, Diospyros nigra, or Diospyros stygina is a synonym, and that's sapote negro, or chocolate pudding fruit, black persimmon or Mexican persimmon. And those are black, like the Texas persimmons. They're bigger though, and those are actually cultivated by indigenous peoples in I forget which valley, but in Mexico, some valley, there's sites of what's suspected to be cultivated Diospyros negro, because they wouldn't have survived throughout the droughts of those periods without some sort of irrigation. So that was like between 6 to 1,000 years ago. But the common persimmon is not quite as delicious, in my opinion. Those are like the orangish ones, and they're pretty small. And then you can buy persimmons in the grocery store, which is the Diospyros kaki, usually the Japanese persimmon, and that's cultivated by some people. In Travis County, where I live, you really only find that common persimmon cultivated ornamental, like landscaping plant, which there's still actually quite a lot of them in Austin, but in the wild you're mostly just gonna find Diospyros texana. Hardly ever will you find a common persimmon, but there's a ton of these, and they like drier habitats like this, sort of well-drained soil. And that's it for this tree. Like any good forager, don't harvest all the fruits from one tree. Just get a handful or two, you know, like 10% or something. If there's a bunch of them in your environment, it's okay, take a little bit more. But, you know, just never try to deplete everything. There's no need for that. So one interesting thing about the Texas persimmons is that 9 out of 10 are males and not fruiting. And only 1 out of 10, or it's like 1 out of 9, is female and is fruiting. And you can't really tell unless it has flowers on it, which are in the spring. They're like these little white to cream colored, yellowish bell-shaped flowers. They're pretty small, like a centimeter long. And the male flowers are very inconspicuous, but they do have flowers. But they're really easy to pick out in the surrounding forest, especially a little bit bigger. They kind of at first glance look like a live oak or something, but their leaves a little bit more pubescent than oak, like a little fuzzy. But the main giveaway is the bark. The bark is like light gray and smooth and is peeling. This isn't the greatest example, but if you get an eye for it, you'll be able to pick these out from a distance. So the Texas persimmon's only found in like central Texas, basically. There's some in South Texas, but it was historically extremely highly esteemed by the natives here, like the Comanche and Tonkawa, Aranama, Karankawa, and also just going into the Archaic Period, this archaeological evidence for Texas persimmon being eaten by natives up to 5,000 years ago. So incredibly good food resource. Look at the size of this bad boy. That's why I call them cactus apples. Check it out, you see that grasshopper on that Texas persimmon? Yeah, this time of year, another thing that's good for gathering is grasshoppers, but people aren't ready to talk about that yet. I posted videos about grasshopper, wild grasshopper collection and eating, and people are like, you're shilling for the WEF, you want us to all eat bugs, Bill Gates, something like that. It's like, yo, think about it for a second. Am I really doing that? Or am I just like, here's some protein, it's free, well, let's eat it. Another reason I love this time of year is the average person is too cowardly, too weak to handle this blazing heat, this sear landscape. But come on, y'all, it's not that bad. You just move here, you just figure it out, it's hot in Texas. Get it together. Get you a sun hat, some nice thin cotton cloth, pearl snap, some long khaki plants, lightweight cotton. Mainly just buck up. It's not that bad. Drink lots of water ahead of time. I actually don't even bring water with me. I just chug a bunch of water ahead of time. Yeah, they're not coming off easy. These are definitely underripe. They often have these little leaf-footed bugs on them. These are in the genus Narnia. Yeah, like the book Narnia. Pretty cool, huh? There's also a sap-feeding bug that's usually more on the pads. That's, let me see if I can remember. Kelenidia vitiger. Also a sap-feeding bug, but not leaf-footed. This one's a little underripe, but I think we're still good. Yeah, see, sometimes that'll happen where the spines from the mother cactus is gonna stick into their fruits. Gotta pull those out. Major up close footage here. Yeah, I don't like using leather gloves because I find the spines, those little glow kids, just get stuck in my gloves, and then they're poking me through the gloves, and it takes forever to find them and pull them out. It's just not worth the pain. Just tongs. Look at this beautiful little lace hedgehog cactus, Echinocereus reichenbachii. This prickly pear species is Opuntia ingomanii. Now don't listen to people who call it Linheimerii, that's just a subspecies or a form or variety of ingomanii. It's pretty much all ingomanii. Here, there's a few other species, but the most common one in Austin proper is like Opuntia ficus indica, which crazy is if you look on iNaturalist, there's 0 observations of it here, although I'm pretty sure I've identified stuff as that species, but people have it very mixed up. That's basically the only spineless variety, and it was cultivated in Mexico like 5,000 years ago, and that's what landscaping stores sell when it's spineless. Opuntia ficus indica. That means, ficus indica means Indian fig, because that's what they've called them back in the day. Here's a good example of that light gray, smooth, peeling bark. See, it's got like these little curling bark there, and it peels off, and it's very smooth. This one's got some lichens on it though. And it's this light gray color. It looks a lot like crepe myrtle actually, but crepe myrtle is brownish. Also madrone, but madrone's orangish. But also for these fruits, you know, I actually don't worry that much about getting them when they're too overripe, because they actually have, like when they're soft and kind of shriveled up a little bit, I could definitely still gather them at this stage. And they seem to like never rot or go bad. It's kind of weird. I was doing some research on it, and apparently they have some sort of antifungal protein in the overripe fruits. So like once they get super ripe, they start making this protein that's specifically good for killing off fungi. And a lot of plants have stuff like that, but it definitely seems a part of it why these fruits seem to never go bad, because they're just like bags of sweet moisture. You'd think they would like rot immediately, but I'll find them, they've clearly been like shriveled on a tree for like a month or more, and I've eaten them and they're like maybe a little bit fermented, but like still pretty good. So I definitely still gather them when they're dried up for the most part. But if they have like bite marks or something, I'm not gonna mess with them. But yeah, overripe ones are good. Another little pro tip is I like to remove these little sepal remnants and have nothing on them, because later when I pulp them, I'll just have to strain those out later. So it's easier when I grab them one by one to just make sure they get knocked off before I put them in my bag. One thing I like about foraging is it's very meditative. I don't have to think about anything for once. So just find fruit, pick fruit, put it in the bag. Pay attention to the wildlife in nature. I often see some really nice wildlife, because I'll just be sitting there in one spot silent for a while, and some animal will come up and be like, oh, you didn't know there's a person here. But yeah, whenever I go out into nature, make sure to never have anything distracting on me. I mean, I got this camera and all this stuff, but that's because I'm trying to make money off of this. Anyway, foraging is very nice. Another little fun factoid about the Texas persimmon is the Comanche name for these fruits, or the species, is tuna seca, and their name for the common persimmon is nasica. So, tu, that prefix, just kind of means black, like their word for black walnut is mitabi or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but it basically just means black persimmon, tuna seca. And as my foraging bag fills up, I have to put them in a grocery bag, a separate container, because they'll start squishing each other on their own weight. And it's just being that way to have enough weight in my backpack and on my shoulder. This is the most delicious ice cream I've ever had, and it's only 2 ingredients: wild Texas persimmon and coconut cream. And here's how I made it. All right, that's it for today, y'all. Please watch some more videos on my channel, or if you want some serious depth of info, check out my Patreon. I also have exclusive member videos, a website, an online shop where I sell my artwork on merch. All right, y'all, thanks for watching. Take it easy.